So life in a monastery is purposely set up to be somewhat challenging to our old habits and ways of being in the world. And in fact, that kind of challenging nature of a monastery it actually starts with challenging nature of the teachings that the Buddha gives us along many different lines. We're kind of asked over many different avenues of approach, asked to let go of our habits and our tendencies that keep on pulling us into difficulty and unsatisfactoriness, the dukkha of worldly existence. And the Buddha set up a system of training and teaching that counteracts that. So it can be challenging for most of us. If it isn't challenging, then probably something's wrong. But we chanted this morning, in the morning chanting after the sit, for the final chant, we chanted on the off-putting qualities of the four requisites. And that itself, that chant itself can be a bit challenging for some people who aren't used to that kind of bluntness that the Buddha gives us about, many of these things, these four requisites aren't inherently disgusting, but when attached to this body, they become disgusting indeed. So some strong words there that are challenging oftentimes to our culture of looking for pleasure, particularly pleasure from the senses and from our requisites of food, clothing, shelter, medicines, and learning to see them in a new light. It's one of the very much encouraged instructions and lifestyle changes for renunciate type community, for the monastic type community. So we have to kind of take an honest look at what the Buddha's teachings are pointing towards with this kind of pointed teaching. And it's just a challenge of the fog that we constantly live in, the fog of looking for comfort and security in the familiar, not only the pleasurable, but the familiar. So he's encouraging us, take a look at this. Is it really what it's all cut out to be? How much time do we spend trying to get the perfect food, the perfect diet, so that we can be perfectly healthy, so that we can look attractive, ways that we kind of tweak our environment and the way we live in it to optimize that sense of stability, security, and happiness in a very temporary kind of way. So look at that and see how it is that that's actually a real trap. That's putting ourselves in a prison of always seeking that kind of sense of stability and security in that which is inherently insecure. And seeing if we can stretch our limits, stretch our boundaries in that way. So not only with the use of requisites, things like that on an individual level, but challenging ourselves with the challenges of living in community. We have structures here at the monastery that maybe people aren't familiar with in the outside world. We've got morning puja at 5 o'clock, which is a stretch for a lot of people. We've got various meetings throughout the day where we ask people to be here, be on time, and be part of the community, to kind of tap into the community life. We've got rules and regulations and all sorts of things that sometimes it's hard to conform to. We want to assert our individual rights, our individual needs, and that's the culture we grow up in here, as one of very strong individuality. But this is a bit of a challenge to that. This is a group effort here, and we set up a system of training and a schedule that everybody who's here needs to be involved with. And that's a way of self-effacement, giving ourselves over to a greater need, a greater concern, coming out of our own individual cocoons and looking around and seeing, oh, okay, well, we're part of a greater thing. And how can I give myself over to that? As long as it's, of course, an appropriate kind of giving over. And same with our views and opinions being challenged. We live in a community. People have different ways of viewing things. We're all, this is really a heavy cultural time with intense politics going on and opinions and views out there in the world about all sorts of things and a lot of high antagonistic emotion being put out. And it's easy to tap into that and kind of be pulled into the sway. But Here we're trying to do something different. We're trying to limit that. We're trying to not get entangled with that, not try and get polarized, and to challenge our own way of looking at things. Again, our cherished views and opinions, the way we see the world, the way we see society, and the way we interact. We're trying to create this sense of individual security and familiarity, and this is an opportunity to relax that, to let go of that, to open up, to see if we can expand our boundaries of what it is that we can take in and consider, to take us beyond our own particular, needs, wants, views, opinions of what's right, what's wrong, of what I need, what the world needs, what is wrong with everything. So to use this kind of tight container with our structures and our precepts, the 8 precepts, the renunciate precepts, and the teaching that all of this is very changeable, very malleable, and everybody has different perspectives, and that those are all just part and parcel of the conditioned realm, and that if we want to get beyond that to a state of peace that's independent of that, we have to kind of work through some of the conditioning and the muck that we find ourselves slogging through. So that's what we're here to do, and we can use each other for support along that way, and try and see things a lot more clearly, and in that clear seeing is the opportunity for relinquishment and freedom. So I'll leave that for a morning reflection.